we're going to change the name of the men's room just for one episode to the gentleman's room.
We'll never talk about sex, religion, politics or money.
Doesn't leave much to talk about.
Would you fist bump?
Do what?
Fist bump.
Like this?
That sounds lovely. Well, thank you for having me on. I'm loving your look as well, Rory. I'm loving that T-shirt. Did you keep the receipt for that one? Or?
Out of the two of us, who wins?
Just to keep it equal, I think let's do a 1 out of 10 for both of you. And I'm going to be really generous here. So being generous out of 10, let's do 1.
Wow. Hello everyone, I'm Ade Oladipo and welcome to another episode of The Men's Room. But this is a very, very special episode. In fact, we're going to change the name of The Men's Room just for one episode to the Gentleman's Room. I want to welcome in Mr. Rory Jennings, as always. Spotify, thank you very much to them. They've let us in their wonderful studios and it's wonderful. Very, very secret building in a secret location. So secret, we had to get help to get in. But we're in. We are in, and we've got a very, very special guest with us as well, Mr. Grant Harold. I'm going to read out his exact title. The UK's leading etiquette expert and former butler to King Charles III.
I was, yes. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
And I love the name, the Gentleman's Room. I feel like I'm in the local facilities now, but thank you.
Yeah, loads can happen in the Gentleman's Room.
That's what I'm worried about.
This is great. I'm very excited about this episode. Yeah, this is going to be a great one for you.
Well, and for you, because you know why I say and for him? Because he thinks he is Mr. Etiquette. He thinks he's somehow perfect, and because dude says all the right things and does all the right things and hates when I wear tracksuit bottoms and the wrong pair of trainers. So I'm happy that you can come, Grant, and give him a good look down about what he's wearing.
Do you know what's quite funny there, Ade? The way that you presented that,
Yeah.
you were suggesting that Grant was going to agree with you.
No.
And then when you said tracksuit bottoms, I saw his lip curl.
Tracksuit, I mean, that's lovely. Tracksuit bottoms, very 1980s. That's lovely. But it's something I kind of try to avoid. But I'm loving your look as well, Rory. I'm loving that T-shirt. Did you keep the receipt for that one? Or?
I should have put a little bit more effort into that. I should have tried to be a bit more dapper.
Can I talk about our greetings today?
Yes.
I came in and gave you a hug.
You did give me a hug, which is
quite strong and
very nice.
firm.
Strong.
Rory was very,
very
safe.
Very royal handshake. Very good. The thing about etiquette today, when you meet somebody, you're supposed to do handshakes, but then if somebody goes around hugging, then you reciprocate, you give a hug back. That's the kind of thing.
You asked for it.
Exactly.
You asked for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you expect that back, great. But if you're being really, really formal, so say we were Ascot as an example. Say we were Ascot when we were being introduced to each other, then we'd do the handshakes. And Rory's handshake was quite interesting. A little bit limp on the limp side, but that's fine.
Oh, really? That's the most offensive thing that you could possibly say. Because that upsets me. So if I get a limp handshake from somebody, it puts me off the person.
Yeah. Well,
so the fact that I've delivered one is troublesome.
A little bit. Like, I mean, it could have been overpowering, and then you become too domineering, and we don't want that. And also, you've got to make sure your hands aren't too sweaty.
Was Rory's hands sweaty?
It was wet. Well, it wasn't sweaty. It was wet.
I've been
since the handshake, I've been kind of looking for the bacterial hand wipes.
Wow.
Is this the correct etiquette? This is what I adopt. If I meet a man, I handshake. If I meet a lady, I give her a kiss on the cheek. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. It depends if you know that person. So traditionally, I would always opt for the handshake first. So with two gentlemen meeting, it's sometimes difficult as to who should be given the handshake. Sometimes it can be age. Can be down to the person being older, seniority, titles, that kind of thing. If you're both of equal power, then both going for the handshake. And the handshake is supposed to be where your hands meet, fingers wrapped round, thumbs down, 2 to 3 pumps, no more, no less, and then hands back to the side. Simple as that.
What I do.
Okay, cool.
But with a lady,
that's exactly. No, it's not.
It's exactly what I do.
It's
not
what you do.
Exactly what I do.
It's not what you do.
I think you did
2 or 3 pumps.
I think you went for 4 pumps, which is slightly. I felt that you're kind of trying to pump up a bicycle tire, but it was fine.
You know what?
It's okay.
Like obviously, we watch football. I don't know if you are a football man, but you see the foreign managers when they say hello to someone, they do this very cheeky tap on the face. You see, Mourinho always seems, and Pep does it as well. And it's not a case of age or seniority. He just slaps someone on the face. How cheeky, or is that a foreign thing?
I must confess, I don't really watch too much football. I'm more kind of into croquet and cricket, but I'm sure football is lovely to watch. But I haven't noticed them going up touching each other on the face. Is it like a touch? Is it like grooming each other?
I don't think there's any sort of. I don't think he's trying to be condescending. I think it's done out of love. But I think etiquette-wise, you don't touch someone else's face.
No, I mean
it's a bit cheeky. That's what I'm saying.
I mean you don't kind of touch the face or pat them on the head because they're not a dog.
Yeah.
So obviously it's better just to stick to the handshakes. And with the lady, what I was going to say is, if you're meeting a lady, if you don't know the lady, let the lady offer the handshake first. Don't you offer the hand first. She's got to offer it. If she wants to, she might not want to. And then if you're going to go in for the kiss, then the lady should actually lead the kiss first. And it's just to be very clear, we're talking about. We're not talking about French kissing.
No.
We're talking about kisses on the cheek. So it's right cheek
depends.
and then oh god.
What's even a cheek side? There's even a cheek side. So if I go in for the left cheek, I've done it wrong.
Yes, it's the same side as the handshakes. It's the right hand. So just remember, if it's the right hand, you go with the right cheek. And then
You knew this. I know you knew this.
And no air kissing. So don't none of that.
Oh, so you have to touch.
No, you have to touch. A little touch. And then you can make a silent kind of, but not like a loud, none of that kind of.
Okay.
Grant, look, before we go down this rabbit hole, how did you get into all of this? Because this is a very interesting profession.
So my background, as you've mentioned, was I was a butler for the King, and while I was working, or when he was Prince of Wales, and prior to that, I worked for the Duke of Bedford, which his family's quite famous because they kind of founded or started afternoon tea in the 1800s. So around the late Duke of Bedford, the present Duke, and the now King, I kind of watched what they did. I watched their day-to-day lives, how they did things, the etiquette, and I'd ask them questions. I mean, I was fascinated by etiquette and how to do things properly and dress codes, and so I used to kind of ask them questions. I'm sure they kind of thought, why do they keep asking all these questions? So I was interested in it. And then before I left, I should mention that when people used to come to meet with a member of the royal family, like the Prince, as he was then, or Prince William or somebody, I would talk through what you're supposed to do. So I'd say about how you do the bow, the curtsy, the handshake. So I'd already been doing this. And then when I left, I thought, I wondered if it's something I could do as a job, which I didn't think would become anything, teaching people how to kind of act and behave. And it's become a main time thing for me. It's a full-time job, and I run the courses at Blenheim Palace, which is obviously, it was classed as Britain's greatest palace. We do courses there, and I have everybody come along from people from my very background, because my background was very kind of, I grew up in a council estate in Scotland, where the other end, I've had royal clients as well. So I have some amazing clients, and I run a butler school. So I've gone from working as a butler to going into this kind of world. And I should mention also social media has become a big thing, because I started teaching serious etiquette advice on social media, and now I've turned it into a little bit of comedy / etiquette, which seems to be doing quite well with the masses.
Aside from London or sort of neighbouring regions, is there an area in the country which has kind of nailed this down? That side of the country knows exactly what they're doing.
Berkshire. If I were to guess, the most polite part of the country, I'm going for Buckinghamshire or Berkshire.
It's definitely a sure, isn't it?
Do you know, there hasn't been one area I could actually say, they've definitely got it. It's really difficult to kind of pinpoint any area that, I mean, even people that you think would know how to behave or do things, they don't. That's what's really funny. Over the years when I've had some extraordinary clients, and I think, they'll know how to do stuff, and they don't. So I think, but do you know what? These etiquette rules, people get a bit nervous and start kind of worrying about getting things wrong. And the way I understand it is, etiquette was created as a kind of rule book to kind of keep us all right. So it wasn't. It doesn't mean to say that etiquette's right for you or me, or it's a personal thing. So there's a set of rules that we all kind of were supposed to follow, and that we, if you're in somebody else's home or if you're at an event or something, but in your own home, you've got your own rules. I bet you have in your home, I can guarantee you have your own rules, the way you like things done, the way you do things, when people come round, the ways that you like to do things, and that's your rules. And that's not right, it's not wrong, it's just that's your rules. But if you're looking at a collective, so you're at an event at Buckingham Palace, then what I try to teach is kind of, I suppose, royal etiquette, which is how to do things when you're around royals or aristocracy. But as I said, it doesn't mean to say that's right. It's just that's how it's their rules. It's how they like to do things.
You know that very particular strand of etiquette that you're talking about there. Being in a royal palace, for example. I understand that is a very specific set of rules for a very specific occasion. Are you, like me, at your wit's end with just the lack of etiquette and politeness in modern day society?
Sometimes yes, because you notice things, as you mentioned, everyday etiquette, and it's kind of going out the window. I mean, example. Can I give the example at the Underground?
Yeah, oh, it's
You know, you go in
appalling.
the, and it's literally crazy, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, there's no kind of queuing. Literally when you're putting your tickets against the scanner and people jump in front of you and everyone racing on the train and people getting stuck halfway in trains and half out of trains, and it all goes out the window. And then I noticed, you know, so if I'm on the Underground and there's a lady comes on, it is risky because obviously some ladies do not want a gentleman giving up a seat because it's equality, you know, and I appreciate that. But sometimes if a lady comes on or somebody that's elderly, I will offer the seat. And I thought maybe
How old the lady?
How old the lady?
How old the lady? Are we? A 20-year-old comes on, you're getting up.
Probably more somebody in the
Can't be
50s,
ageist, can you?
60s.
Oh,
well, it's difficult. It depends. If it's a younger person, it could be somebody that's pregnant, somebody that's got children.
That's careful.
Pregnant, you always
No,
do.
but pregnant's a very risky
they
thing.
often wear
because
a baby
sometimes
on
it could
board,
be-
don't they?
No, well, some do, but if they don't,
No, but you could
you're
still
taking
see
the risk
someone's
about
pregnant.
overweight. I don't know if you can.
I've
though.
been there.
You've
I've
been there,
made
you've
that
been there.
mistake.
It's risky.
That's incredibly
He's made Grant's made the
I
mistake.
went up to somebody once to congratulate them, and I said, "Oh, is there some exciting news?" And she said, "This is years ago, 15 years ago." And they said, "What do I mean?" And I said, "Oh, are we some exciting news coming up?" And they're like, "No." And I realised that they were obviously slightly overweight since I last saw them.
Okay, but that's incredibly unlucky. 99% of people who are pregnant, you don't assume are fat.
No, they could just be overweight a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But you look, I think it's fair to say that if you make a judgment that somebody's carrying a baby, you're probably correct, and therefore you should vacate your
I'm
seat.
talking about the time when it's not as visible. 5 months maybe.
yeah,
That's quite. I mean,
No, but then you've got to rely on a baby on board.
Yeah, you've got to rely on that.
But that's an example where you always have to vacate your seat, immediately.
That's what
regardless of what seat as
100%,
well. Like, you know, there's
100%.
that seat by the edge which
Yeah.
would suggest that you have to. You know, there's a note on it that says.
I like when everyone puts their head down I see it when everyone immediately just jumps on the phone and head down.
Well, I think
as
they
they see
went to
someone
sleep.
coming on. You know, they
But
pretend.
you know, weirdly, I respect the etiquette. Like, I don't see it as a chore. Like, you know, that kind of thing.
I
I'm
want to do it.
mortified if someone's got up before me.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like, you know,
yeah.
if someone beats you to the punch, if somebody gets on who clearly needs a seat,
Yeah.
and I haven't, I feel terrible because it's only they've been quicker. But I like doing these things. I like the etiquette. I like the tradition. I like the respect.
Do you hold doors open?
Always.
He does.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I-
dream
I
of not.
can confirm
But-
he does.
And I'm furious. You know, if somebody lets a door shut on me,
Oh,
I will like chase them and make it an issue. But no, I would
See,
always
that's where
hold
he
the door.
crosses the line on etiquette because he then goes into gangster mode.
If I let someone out of a lift
Oh.
first and they just walk out, right, you're welcome.
Oh yeah. I know people who do that. That will say that. I've been with people and they'll actually say you're welcome.
Yeah.
And I kind of understand where you're coming from. Even though, as he said, it's kind of almost breaking the etiquette rules a little bit because you're obviously going against the whole etiquette. But you know, I do understand because sometimes I've gone and held a door open, or I've got out the way for somebody, or given up a seat, or done something, and they completely blank you. They completely, as if it never even
rude.
happened. And the inner you wants to go back and pull them back and say, "Oh, forget it. I'll go out in front of you," kind of thing. You know, you want to redo it, and the next time round do it differently. But the way I see it is that we're good people. We're trying to do it the right way, and if other people don't want to appreciate it, and also I sometimes think maybe there's something going on in their lives that maybe they're having a bad day, and maybe there's a problem. So I try to see it from that point of view. The worst thing that happened to me recently, I was in a shop and there was it was late at night. I was travelling back from I'd been at a friend's and I was travelling back quite late, and I stopped at the services to go and get a couple of snacks for the car journey. And when I was leaving the shop, I went up to the cashier and she completely, I said, "Good evening, how are you?" Nothing. Not a word. She did all that, and then she held a hand out towards the card reader to say, you know, but no communication. I thought, okay, I'm going to ignore. So I went out, and I realised I'd forgot to get something. So I went back in to get it, and she was ignoring me. She was stacking a shelf, and I'm standing, and she was completely ignoring me. And eventually, she looked at me and she huffed. She started huffing, and so I said to her,
what?
like she was
Just like, I don't want to do this.
so I said, "Is there a problem?" She said, "Sorry." I said, there's a problem. I said, because obviously there's a problem. I said, you're being extremely rude, and I don't understand why you're being rude. And I said, it's not really on to be rude to customers. I said, if you're having a bad day, completely understand that, but I don't think it's really acceptable that you work for this well-known brand and you're giving off the impression that people are not welcome in here. And she said, I'm not being rude. And I said, you have been. I said, if you watch your CCTV, you will see how you behaved. And I said, it's really disappointing. And I took my things and I left, and she just kind of shrugged her shoulders. And I normally wouldn't say anything, but it was the huffing. I thought
the huffing is the straw that broke the camel's back.
But it's so common now. That story that you've told there, I imagine everybody listening to this podcast will be able to empathise with that and will have had their own experience of that.
Somebody put, actually a friend put on social media, it was literally the day after, saying that they had been in a store, had the exact same experience, and they also confronted the person about it, and they just didn't care. And I don't know if it's because people are not happy in their job.
Just about
if
to
they're
say
not
that.
happy.
It's difficult, isn't it?
But
people
again,
are really stressed out. The cost of living.
Totally.
You never know what someone's going
Yeah, but
through.
just be polite.
No, but
there
are some.
Doesn't matter. Just be polite.
You heard that Malcolm Gladwell? You read that Malcolm Gladwell book that talks about the Sandra Bland situation?
No.
Where she's really stressed. She gets stopped by a police officer, and she lights a cigarette, and he takes it as a rude gesture. I'm talking to you, lighting a cigarette, not knowing her backstory of that day has been so stressful that he literally just tipped her over the edge. So she light a cigarette, not just because of him, but because it's the straw that broke the camel's back for her. And then obviously she got arrested. She ended up committing suicide in the cell.
Shame.
And it was almost like it wasn't her being rude. It was just everything that day, life in general. And all she did was light a cigarette, and it threw the police officer over the edge, and it threw her over the edge, and then bang.
And that was that. Yeah. That's what's sad, and I think that's always in the back of my mind, that there could be some going on. I mean, we're all different. We all deal with things differently. And the other thing I'll quickly mention is, someone said to me, which is true, someone could have lost someone that day, whatever. And I've been there. I mean, I remember I was filming for an ITV programme the day that my father passed, and I got the news during the filming, and I went back in to do the filming, and I carried on being myself, smiling, joking, laughing, and I told them I'm not going to tell them what had happened, because I knew it would change everything, and carried on completely as normal. And at the end of it, they said to me, was everything okay? Because I disappeared earlier on for quite a while. And I said, it's my father had passed. And they were brilliant. They were absolutely great about it. And then at that point, I did get upset, and I went home, and that was that. And I got a wonderful letter from ITV to say that they had never worked with somebody where something that had happened, but yet I hadn't, I'd carried on in the profession that I do, being
Stoicism, though, that's good.
So the point I'm trying to make is that I'm not saying that everyone can do that, because I know different people deal with, when you lose somebody, we all deal with it differently. But I think, in life, who was the actor? There was somebody that said we're all actors in life, and it's true. We all play parts, whatever the role might be. We all play parts, and sometimes you've got to kind of, even though you're having a really bad day and bad things happen, but we've still somehow got to kind of keep smiling and carrying on. And I don't think it's fair if you're having a bad day of taking it on other people, or the whole etiquette thing, being rude to people. I think we've still got to try to be polite. Maybe not as friendly or as polite, I get that, but still, a little smile. Or
but there's a difference, isn't there, between being friendly and polite? Nobody's
Yes.
asking you to tell jokes,
No.
but you can still be polite and respectful.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't think that whatever's going on in any situation, that there is ever an excuse to not simply be courteous
polite.
to people.
Would
you say you're courteous?
To everyone, always, until you're not to me, and then I go like a
No,
lunatic.
he is courteous. Bad handshake, but very courteous. But the Queen, can I use her example? The late Queen,
course.
she was brilliant with this kind of thing. I remember, when she was having good days, bad days, sad days, and she was always the same. Always put on that, is it a poker face they call it?
Yeah.
Always got the poker face, always been polite, always been friendly, always been jokey, and regardless of what might be going on in private, she always remained the same. And I remember thinking that's quite amazing that she could, not just her, the rest of the family, how they do that. And so with everything I do, I kind of think, well, if they can do it, then we can all do it to an extent.
Has it got worse over the years? Like people like my mum would like to say, in the 80s it was so much better and blah, blah, blah. People like to talk about sort of a time sort of from many years ago. Has it got worse, or has people's etiquette improved?
I don't think it's got worse. I think it's just different times, isn't it? So for example, in the 80s we didn't have mobile phones. So we didn't have all these devices which take up all our time. As you mentioned, public transport, the first thing we do, I do it as well. We all look at our devices, our mobile phones. And I think, so it's evolved and it's changed. people say, how many people say to us, "Oh, these kids these days, they don't know how lucky they got it," and look at them all. And our parents were saying the same thing about us, and our grandparents were saying the same about there. So I don't think I think it's just always been the same, but. I think it just evolves, it just changes.
You know what I've noticed, and I'm so self-conscious of it now, that you've not yet put your elbows on the table and me and Rory
you're
like
not.
this and like that. And I'm like, so I've tried it for about 5 seconds and I couldn't do it. It was uncomfortable.
I kind of noticed, but I wasn't going to say.
No, it's important to
I
say.
thought it was at a dinner table. I didn't know it was any table.
No, so normally, well, actually, it depends on the situation. This is actually fine because when you're in if we class this as a kind of business environment, then if you wish to put your hands on the table, that you can.
Elbows are a
elbows.
no-no,
You
'cause I'm
don't
doing
normally.
that. Okay,
you don't normally. But again, in this environment, there's nothing really wrong with that. But if you were a dining, say it was a dining table,
I wouldn't be at dinner like this though.
No.
There's a huge difference to flag that. Also, I liked how you waited to say my arm was up.
You've been up
to
and
then
down.
flag it.
No, you've been up and down.
Yours
Since
wasn't.
we started, I've noticed.
No, but it's been up and down.
Yeah,
but you flag it when I was up
no
to try and put me on the spot.
There's no consistency. Do one or the other. I'm owning this. I'm owning this.
I'm loving how you have a polite argument. That's so good. Polite etiquette of arguing. That's great. But this is one environment. A dining environment is very different. So you'd be sitting there with your back straight. It's very much like Princess Diaries. Head up, back straight, shoulders slightly back. Look how you've both suddenly changed. You've suddenly gone like
I've been told
really
my posture's
regal.
not great as well.
You're all over the place. Your posture is all over the place. I've noticed.
Posture's good also for bad backs. I have a bad back, so if you've got bad back, it really helps with that. Keeping the hands in the lap is really important. The only time during a meal they're above is if you're having a drink, like a sip of your wine. I said a sip, not the whole glass, Rory. So it's kind of like having, for drinks or for using the cutlery. Other than that, they're on the laps. You're not supposed to really have them on the table during the.
Do you think that we should? A lot of these rules, people would be ignorant to them, but by accident. There are a lot of things that people wouldn't necessarily know. Do you think that this should be taught in schools? This level of etiquette.
I think. I don't know. At one time I think it was. I think, and there is some. I think I've not been to one, but I think in private schools they still try to teach, some etiquette. I say teach. I think it's
just the way that they.
It's the way they behave. Yeah. People have said to me, "How do the aristocracy? How do royals learn etiquette?" I remember when Harry was marrying his wife Meghan, and they were kind of saying, "How did she learn the etiquette of how to be royal?"
She never did.
Well, it's an ongoing process, obviously. But I think the reality is she learnt from other members of the family. She learnt from her husband. How often do we see them well, not that often, but on the balcony, and you'd see Harry trying to tell her what to do. I think there was lip readers explaining that he was saying things to about where to stand and what to do and what not to do, and that's how they learn. So they do learn. So it's not, you don't have to learn it at school. You can learn it at any point in life, I suppose. But I think the actual how to behave, etiquette, whatever you want to call it, that begins at home, doesn't it? That begins with the parents. And I think as parents, I also think it's wrong for other people to judge if other parents are doing it right or wrong, because it's back to that thing that in your own home you have your own rules of how to behave and how to act. And the reason we're learning it, it's not just about. The one thing I'd say is that you shouldn't learn this to put other people down. You shouldn't be learning etiquette to try to say you're better than anyone, because I'm a huge believer in no one's better than anyone else, and that's what the Royals are the exact same in that view. The reason you're learning it, it's just to kind of, one, it's to try to put other people at ease when you're around them, and the other reason you're learning it is to make you a better person. It's like with the education thing, you're trying to, we're all trying to learn, we're all trying to be better people, and I think with etiquette, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be the best you can, really.
Can I ask advice for myself?
Yes.
Single man here.
Okay.
Rory's married with a wonderful daughter. For me, out in the town, still looking for number one.
I think you say in the field. But
No,
okay.
In the field. Either way, yeah. Try both. First date etiquette.
Yep.
So I'm on a first date, wonderful lady. She gets up to go to the toilet.
Yes.
Do I get up and help her with her chair?
So the first thing is we don't call it toilet.
Oh, sorry.
It's actually called loo or lavatory. So that's where the date would go badly wrong.
Well, it depends where she's from.
Well, that's true.
No, but this is the thing. Etiquette's about It's
don't
what
think
you
she's
do.
gonna mind about me.
No, but it's what you do.
Okay, what if she
This
calls,
is what
what if she gets up and says, "I'm going to the toilet"?
No, but
Should I politely say
you
to
know
her,
the
"Oh,
rules,
it's lavatory"?
the rules
No.
to which you hold
No,
yourself.
don't correct her.
Wouldn't correct it. No,
Wouldn't correct
you
her.
could just say, you could just look at it and kind of smile. Did you just say? I lost the question. Did you just say you're going to follow her too? Oh, no, sorry. Okay, I suddenly thought this is turned into a very different type of etiquette.
Escort her.
Yes, escort her.
Escort her to the loo.
None of
No,
that.
no.
None of that on the first, second, third,
Yeah.
fourth, or week dates. You've got to wait for quite a while.
Yeah, okay.
Ideally, probably after the wedding, but we'll go back to that later.
Okay, so if she says she's getting up to go to the lavatory,
Yes, you stand.
I stand up.
You stand
So
up. So you would. Yeah. So you would stand,
Yes.
and then she would then get up. And she would then walk away, and you would give a smile, but not too scary. You're not trying to terrify her. Just a middle, get a
Let's
kind
see
of
the smile.
No,
Is that what you do? Mate, she's going to leave.
yeah.
She's not going to come back. She'll go to
she
the
won't
lavatory.
come back.
She's going to the
That-
exit.
if you smell like that during the day, that's why she's going to the loo. She's not coming back. It's over.
She took all her bags and phones and everything. Okay, so I get up.
Yes,
Don't
and
you-
then and don't do,
Somebody do that? No?
don't keep your hands.
Isn't that in the
Don't,
movies?
don't have to do
Okay,
it. Yeah, you don't have to do anything. You just stand up. You can smile. Just a nice. That's better. That's not as scary as the other one. Yeah, that's not like it anymore.
that's good.
That's
It's good, mate. You look good.
And then hands behind the back. That's really
behind
nice
the back.
posture.
I thought so.
Really nice.
Really, really good.
Nice,
That's
Ad.
lovely. And then she'll walk away, and then at that point you stand down because you keep standing, someone's going to think you're the waiter. So at that point,
Then you can
so
sit
then
down.
yeah. Otherwise,
And then when she arrives back, you stand
when
up
she
again.
comes back, you'll see her come back, and you'll
No,
see.
that's more important.
So then you've got to stand again, and then she'll come back over and she'll pick her napkin off a chair because she would put her napkin. If she put it on the table, that's a bad sign because that means she is finished.
I need to know these red flags,
means-
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
But would you see? I would have definitely stood. Say I was having dinner. Say I'm out
Yes.
for dinner.
Yes.
If somebody I know comes over to the table, so if I was out for dinner with my mum, a friend of my mum's comes over, we go to the same restaurant for years. We will probably know someone from Northwest London in this restaurant.
Yeah.
If somebody comes over to that table, I would always stand.
That's nice. That's what I do.
But I wouldn't
100%.
necessarily stand. I wouldn't have known to stand if somebody were to leave the table.
Yeah. So if somebody leaves, stand. When they come back, stand. If somebody comes over to the table, you're also because it's a bit awkward if you carry on sitting there and they're standing. You're kind of
So you stand.
So it's better if you stand up, male
one
or
I knew.
female.
And never shake hands sat.
Oh,
That's
never,
something else.
never shake hands.
Someone comes over.
Never.
And,
That's
but you know, if you were sat
Never.
down in a pub
No,
or
I
restaurant,
always make sure-
I'd come over and shake hands. You could just go shake.
However,
And if you don't stand up, then
stand
I'm
up,
not your
though.
friend anymore. That's it.
I would want to
However,
stand up.
what I will say, and it's because of my social media, this has been brought up to me. If somebody's unable to stand,
Then
then
you
obviously
squat.
then it's no then then you would no, you wouldn't really squat. You would then the handshake would be done when they're sitting down, or so obviously it changes depending on somebody's situation. But yeah, I wouldn't suddenly kind of squat.
Yeah, to be eye level with
to their level. I mean, it depends on the situation. Depends on what's
Would you
going on.
fist bump?
Do what?
Fist bump.
Like this.
That sounds lovely. Well, thank you for having me on.
So hang on, because I'm never going to do this again. Is that completely?
Yeah, we don't fist anything in public.
literally never.
No,
Okay.
So if someone
I will
puts
never
it
do
out
that
to
again.
You get more than just give them a look. Like, what are you doing? Like,
I'm worried about where this is going. So no, we wouldn't be doing any kind of
Nothing like that.
fisting
ever.
in public. No.
Okay.
The only thing you would do is offer the handshake. So you can do obviously the handshake. And what I've noticed, if you don't want to do, I mean, obviously during COVID, handshakes were out the window, weren't they? You couldn't do a handshake. And then I noticed that the now king was doing putting the hands together, in prayer. Kind of thing, and kind of bowing his head. Is it namaste?
Namaste,
Which was lovely, to do that as well. But if you meet, and I have seen some people sometimes do the elbow thing as well, which doesn't really make
So
sense.
if anybody does that to me ever again, I'm just going to shake it.
shake it. Like
I'm gonna
rock,
shake-
paper, scissors.
Well, I will shake because
Something like
I
that,
know.
and then you do. That is so offensive.
Just to show you
that
that I
is so
shake.
offensive. That's almost like you saying you're above me.
I shake.
You
it.
control me.
It's not about that. It's about respect and
I
etiquette.
think if they bring that out, you could just raise your hand up and go.
No, we're
Yeah,
shaking.
no, to be
Make it a
fair-
stalemate.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
moving.
Well, you
Are
could kind of do the whole "how do you do" and put the hand up, and then maybe they might suddenly go, "Oh, handshake."
Yes, agreed.
Or they might not put the hand up, at which point you have to put your hand down because they're not going to do.
Right. I will
handshake.
never ever. I will only ever handshake now.
And also, how do you do is very formal. That's the old-fashioned way. How do you know what you used to say? So if somebody said, "How do you do?" What would you say back to them? Do you know?
I'm good.
I do good.
I'm right.
What
I do well.
you do? Well.
How do you, I do well. How do you do?
Yes, this is going really well. So
I do well.
what you're supposed to say is, "How do you do?" back. So you say, "How do you do?" and
do
you
you
say,
do
"How do you do?"
This could keep on going though, couldn't it?
No, that's no. Then
It's the perennial greeting.
then you stop. However, the late Queen changed it, and she started saying, "How nice to see you." So you walk in the room, and because how do you do is obviously asking after somebody's well-being, and you respond. You used to say, "How do you do?" and you say, "I'm very well, thank you. How do you do?" And then for whatever reason that was dropped, and they just stuck with "How do you do?" What the late Queen used to say was, "How nice to see you," because you would never say "pleased to meet you." Because how do you know you're pleased to meet somebody? Because you might not be. But if you were to say "how nice to see you," it's nice to see them.
Okay, I'm going to adopt that greeting.
And also, if you've seen them again, so say you both meet, obviously weekly, you say "how nice to see you again," and then you do the handshake. And if as you get to know each other, then you can move on to the hugs, obviously, which you both are good at hugging. And then if you want to, then you could even go into the social kissing.
Okay, this is fantastic.
How
You
nice-
just
how nice to
kissed
see
me
you.
there.
I was practicing.
Oh, okay.
How nice to see you. How nice to see you.
How nice to see you.
too.
You're not delivering it well, though.
How nice to see you.
That's a bit better.
Yeah.
Bit
How
better.
nice to see you.
How nice to see you too.
Do you think we
Dude,
could make
and
a gentleman of
I-
Ade? Do you think
Ade-
the raw materials
Ade,
are there?
Absolutely, we're already there. Rory, how long is a piece of string? Ade's also got very good eye contact. Actually,
Very.
you both have good eye contact. That's really important
Because
because
it annoys me when people don't.
eye contact's really
another
because
thing.
there's nothing worse than having a conversation with somebody and they're literally looking everywhere else but at you.
Maintaining eye contact in real life, I'm
Really
good at.
important.
Zoom calls, I mean, I just disagree with them in principle, so I don't want to be on it to begin with anyway, so
They're
I'm probably
really-
not paying much attention.
And they're also a bit of a nightmare on iPads because I didn't realise it took ages to work out the camera. When you're looking at an iPad, you're looking straight on. You realise you're
It's
looking
really
wrong.
Oh, you know
You've got to
now,
make sure,
I just
yeah.
don't do them on principle. I just will not do
What
that.
Zoom calls? Yeah.
If,
Yeah,
and if
I'm
I
not
end
a
up on
fan.
one, I've usually got like a poker table open or something. I'm just not focused on whatever I'm doing. I'm not there really.
Are you kind of sitting there having a meal or something?
Yeah, I'm not really there.
Yeah.
I just disagree with them. in
That's the
principle.
worst thing I ever saw. Just talking about a meal with an iPad. I actually witnessed somebody during a dinner in a castle. I was having dinner, and the person across from me opened up, not thankfully for Zoom, but opened up a laptop or an iPad to watch a movie during the
That's
meal
appalling.
in the
Yeah,
restaurant.
but guess what Ade does? So Ade and I go out for dinner
Yeah.
fairly often.
Yeah, that's lovely.
I
very
end up
romantic.
having dinner with him. I would never dream of touching my phone
Change,
during
change.
a meal.
But
During a meal.
Can you,
This guy, he's
can
just
you-
talking to me, having a conversation with me, but scrolling through his phone like this. So I'm part of the conversation.
But-
Everything's
but
focused
do you
on.
know? I can understand. So basically, happily married with children, and obviously he's Tinder. It's got to kind of be,
not
and that's Tinder
other
etiquette.
apps. But can you tell them as well that I've changed? I don't no longer do that.
We've changed because there's a rule now that if the first person to look at their phone has to pay the bill.
That's a good rule.
And I'm Nigerian,
That's
so
a
we've certainly
really
changed.
good rule.
We
That's
have
a
certainly
good
changed.
rule.
Oh, I win it all the time.
Do you find it difficult though not looking at the phone for an hour?
No,
No.
Really?
I find it a
Okay.
release.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't. Do you know like the fantasy of like winning the Euro Millions or whatever?
Yes.
The first thing I want to do is like not have a smartphone anymore.
Really?
Yeah. That's the dream.
I think-
because I think they're really bad
They're
for
awful.
politeness.
Oh,
and
they are
etiquette.
bad.
awful,
I mean,
they're
they're, and I think for us, I don't know how you guys are, but for me, when I was at school, they just started to kind of come out, and I had one, but it was for emergency. It wasn't a smartphone; it was just it was a phone, and I had it for emergencies and that kind of thing. Where now, you kind of see programs with kids at school and stuff, and in the playground, they're all on the phones.
Really bad.
And that scares me because playtimes and stuff when I was at school, you were socialising with your mates or playing or whatever,
Having a fight round the back.
having a fight or
Just
whatever.
being active though and being present
Totally.
rather
And now,
than virtual friendships.
but have you not seen this new thing? I don't want to say the name, but a type of eyewear that you're going to wear that takes you into
Seen
these virtual reality worlds. Is that not really? What's that going to do for etiquette? Because suddenly you're in this complete different world.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Reality.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
terrifying.
Your clothes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, obviously you've come fully prepared.
Yes.
Or is this how you, 9 times out of 10, this is what you
9
wear?
times out of 10, this is how I dress.
You'd always wear a tie.
Normally wear a tie. Normally have a dress shirt.
Always a pocket square.
Pocket square.
I get that wrong all the time.
pocket
I get
square.
that
They're
wrong
not
all the
supposed to
Um,
match. That's
I get that
crucial.
wrong
The
all time.
crucial
But
thing.
sometimes I don't know whether to do like that, which is a hanky. What's
Handkerchief.
this? Handkerchief. Or I don't know whether or not to just put down the square.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
So there's like a normal piece of like almost white card. I've seen people just chuck down.
No, it's
Oh, really?
always.
Yeah,
I think
something
somebody's
like
been
that.
watching too many Mr. Beans.
What are you on about, mate? It's always.
Let him educate me. You're not the best dresser. No,
so
no,
mate,
no.
Mate, I
all-
wouldn't put
all
a
you
piece
do-
of card as a pocket
No,
square.
almost like a
This
piece
is
of
a new
white.
low for you.
No, almost like a piece of white cloth there, but not in the shape where you've got it.
So basically, I know what you're saying,
Thank
which
you.
is
It's a
where
lost
it's obviously
cause,
folded. Well, yes, but look at your T-shirt anyway. The handkerchief. What you're supposed to do is you open it out.
Yes.
So you just open it, so I obviously fold mine when I iron them, and then you pinch it at the top. So we pinch it like that, and you just do that, and then you tuck it in, and then you just spread it out a little bit.
Is there
like
a
that.
certain height? That's
That's it, and that's what. If you look at the king, that's exactly how he has his. It's the same principles. You don't have to go and fold them or anything. It's just as simple as that.
Very
No
sharp.
effort. I always think ties are nice. If you can put on a tie, you make the effort. You don't have to. It depends on what you're going to. Jackets are nice. Pair of chinos, even smart jeans.
Yeah.
You can get some, but not any of these kind of holy. I'm not talking about religious jeans, just jeans with holes.
And I noticed you're wearing a signet ring.
I've got my family signet ring. Yep.
That's the upper echelon of the world, isn't it?
I've had one since I was 30. I've had one. Normally you get given them by your family when you're 21, but in Scotland I was given a kilt instead, so I had a kilt when I was 21. I should quickly just drop in, it's the same kilt I wore when I danced with the Queen, so it was quite relevant being given a kilt for that special occasion. But no, some people do, but a lot of people, I've noticed more people wear signet rings
without
than
knowing
before.
their signet rings.
Yeah,
I think
I think for me, my family, the Harold has a crest, so I've gone down that route of my father's side. But a lot of people sometimes if they don't have that, they'll go to a mother or they'll go to another branch of the family. I've actually got two. I've got this one which was my dad's, and I've got one that's just a plain one that I've worn since I was 30.
And then, so a signet ring. A watch? You've got a very, very beautiful watch on
my
there.
watch. It's not anything too.
No, it's beautiful.
Thank you. So you're not.
You're not supposed to comment on that.
No, you're not. So I noticed you've got a lovely watch as well, and you're not supposed to kind of. I assume it's a Rolex you're wearing there. Is it a Rolex?
Not a Rolex.
It's
no.
not. What is?
It's a Breitling.
Oh, shame. Okay. So this is the point. You're not supposed to comment on other people's jewelry. You can look, you can admire, but you're not supposed to say. You're not. Because did you keep the receipt for that?
See, I would have thought again, like
I normally get a year to return them. Just
See, I want to learn because I think this is all very important. But I would have thought that it's an incredibly kind thing to do to comment on somebody's watch or somebody's appearance.
Can. So, for example, if there's a lady that comes into the room and you want to comment on the dress, by all means, you should say to a lady, "May I see how lovely you look?" You may even look
risky,
at you may even look at Ade and say, "Ade, today may I see how ravishing you look?" Maybe don't do that. But you can comment on how smart other people look. That's absolutely fine. With ladies, I wouldn't start commenting on the jewels or what they're wearing or the rings or anything. You can look, and ladies can comment to each other about what they're wearing. But for men, it's not really something you do. The only time, from my point of view, if you comment on something other than how a lady's dressed, it's only if there's an etiquette faux pas, so something's gone wrong.
Oh, you can tell them that.
The worst thing I've ever seen between us, we'll keep this one to ourselves, is I remember this lady coming out of the lavatory, the loos, at an airport, and when she walked out, it was the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen. The back of her dress was tucked into her panties, if I can say that, and off the back of her panties was the end of the loo/toilet roll that went all the way back into the bathroom.
Oh, no.
And obviously somehow there'd been some massive etiquette faux pas, and she'd walked out, and then it broke off as the door closed, and she carried to walk round the room, and nobody was saying anything to her. So I eventually thought, well, this isn't good. So I went over to her, said, "I'm ever so sorry, but I said, one, can I say how lovely you look in that dress?" And she, "Oh, thank you." And then she went to walk away, and I said, "But I think the tail attachment doesn't really look quite right on this occasion." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And I was kind of going sideways look, and she suddenly turned round, and the poor lady suddenly bolted straight back into the lavatory.
Nice of you, though, isn't it?
Well, I thought so. I mean, but I'm sure you'd have done the same.
He'd have put it on his Instagram.
Well, I was going to say after you took the pictures and
Got
posted
to
it on
take a photo.
Instagram.
If it didn't happen,
I
she
have a
would like
feeling.
to know exactly how it happened as well. Sure.
Yeah, photographic evidence is really important.
Very important. Do you own a pair of trainers, by any chance? I was just thinking.
I have one pair for when I go running, but just
But sportswear would be worn only to play sport, not to an office.
Yeah,
for
if
example,
you're gonna
to do a radio show.
No, God, no.
No,
Oh,
absolutely
God, no.
not. It's
I
so
haven't
weird,
actually looked at
isn't
your
it?
footwear. I'm now
Who
worried.
on
No,
earth
no.
He has Reebok classics on.
Really
He
weird
has a pair of Reebok. He has a pair of Reebok classics that you're actually only supposed to wear to the gym.
So you do think it would be really weird to wear a tracksuit if you were in your 40s to work? That's interesting.
I
It's
think,
fine.
yeah.
It's fine if you're going to play school or
No,
kindergarten.
Kindergarten,
Yeah.
play school, yeah.
I actually don't own a tracksuit. So
There you
no
go.
idea
He
what
doesn't
you're
even own a tracksuit.
talking about. No, I do own some tracksuit bottoms, but I don't know the full kit. No, don't own the full
But
kit.
that's in your own home. You're chilling. You're relaxing. It's quite nice to put
Radio
on.
station.
What about at
something
News
like that.
UK, one of the biggest offices in the country? And
Well, I'm kind of
London's-
guessing that today you're both dressed down. I can tell. You obviously felt dressed
This
down
is actually
today.
dressed up for Rory.
Oh, is it?
Normally he wears this kiddies top, which is sometimes bright colours with patches on.
Look at his look. But
What about wearing a hat indoors? How do you feel about that?
This is important.
So, but I've got to be careful not to offend anyone.
No,
you haven't.
no.
You
So,
haven't.
so basically, gentlemen are supposed to remove the hats when they go indoors. So that's the old etiquette rule. So when a gentleman goes indoors,
Old etiquette rule.
old
The
etiquette,
etiquette
old
rule.
etiquette.
He said old.
It's still. If you went
changed.
to some venues today, for example, say the Ritz Hotel, they probably would ask you to remove a hat if you go indoors. Probably, but ladies can wear the hats all day until 6 p.m. At which point a lady has to take her hat off. Has to, because then they will either not wear any hat or they'll put a tiara on if they are married. Then they'll wear a tiara. If they're not married, they don't wear a tiara because then that's a sign to the gentleman or the ladies in the room that lady is single and ready
So
to mingle.
you're hunting women in tiara? No, not in tiaras.
Not in tiaras, that means a single.
And my
So-
Victoria needs to be wearing a tiara.
So if you see any ladies wearing tiaras, keep away from
Take 'em.
do not take them. Keep away from keep distance. You may look, give a little pleasant smile, not scary look, just a gentle look, a little smile, and then walk away.
I need to. This has just been on my head as you're talking about the Ritz and food, etc. Like just chicken and chips.
Yes.
Good old. I don't know if you've ever had this. I've stopped doing it because I'm a healthy man now. But you go to the local chicken and chip shop and you could buy either fish and chips or chicken and chips. Would you use your hands to consume the chicken?
So when you say chicken and chips, did you say a shop that sells chicken and chips, like fish and chips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually go and buy chicken and chips.
It happens.
There's many.
There's
chicken
many
shop.
chicken and
It
chips.
sounds
Like KFC.
delightful. So how does this
How would you consume a chicken wing? for
KFC
example?
is that a skin condition? So how do you consume it? Well, me personally, I would take it home. I would reheat it up in the oven slightly. I would then, Rory, don't look so worried.
No, I would never eat this
just
anyway.
checking.
I'm with you on
And
this
then, and then I would dish it up into 7 dishes. So the chips would be in a 7 dish and the chicken, and then I'd lay up my table with the napkins and the cutlery and the plates and the flowers and some table decorations, and then some 7 gear, and then I would sit down with my guests or myself, and then I would serve it to myself or to whoever is there, and they would sit and have it in a dignified manner, but no finger licking. We don't lick anything at the dining table.
In where I come from, Nigerian culture, we use our hands to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we don't use
Absolutely.
knife
Yes.
and fork. That's what
and
we
I
use
got
our
in
hands,
trouble because I'm lucky enough that I got a huge Nigerian following on
Yep.
my Twitter, and I put up a post, I want to say about 2 years ago, and it's quite funny because I've obviously become known for it online, which I didn't know, which is where I innocently said to people that when you're eating rice, for example, you use a knife and fork. Now, I was talking about like beef stroganoff or somewhere you might have rice with it, so I wasn't thinking clearly on this one. And when I gave this instruction, I literally had not just Nigeria, I had Asia, I had everyone up and up. I mean, I can't even tell you how millions of people interacting, how many celebrities over there were interacting.
yeah.
Furious that I had disrespected their culture.
You have.
And so I'm fully aware that some cultures obviously do use hands, which is absolutely fine. And what I was trying to refer to was just in my household that I would normally use knife and fork or even chopsticks. I'm not going to say I never use my fingers. Of course I use my fingers when I'm having, for example, asparagus or artichokes.
There we go. Ade, this has been a brilliant episode,
loved it.
especially for you. I think
I think
quite didactic for
I
you.
think Rory's been helped a lot.
No, I think you could really
I think-
benefit.
I
You
think
should
you've
listen
been-
to
I
this
think
one
Rory's
back
been
with a pen and
assistant. I think
paper.
he's
Make
been
some
I
notes.
can see both.
Do you do private tuition?
I do.
I
yeah.
would take it. No, I would like to learn.
Unfortunately, I'm fully booked for the next 10 years. But normally, I mean, both of you, I think, etiquette-wise, you're doing really well.
As you can see, my hat. Look, don't do that. You had your hand
You've
all
got
of a
a hat
sudden.
on.
You just looked.
You're
put his
wearing a
hands
hat
down.
indoors.
You're wearing Reebok
you're out.
Classics.
You're out before it's even begun.
You knew Harold
Mate,
was
you've
going
got
to
some.
come.
You've got
You
some
knew
weird
Harold was going to
sporting
come.
top on.
You're wearing a top with a penguin.
It's a polo top.
It's
The
amazing.
buttons are
Noticed
attached with a
the
collar. I'm wearing
penguin.
a collar. You're wearing a long sleeve t-shirt.
It's not a t-shirt. It's a
But
jumper.
do you know what? There's hope. There's always hope, and I have great hope for the two of you.
Out of the two of us, who wins?
Who wins?
Who's the most?
Clearly, I'm
What-
a more
let me
better
do-
looking-
One of us is wearing a
Well,
hat. the
better
other one
looking,
when he-
distinguished
one of us is wearing a
gentleman.
hat.
Just to keep it equal, I think let's do a 1 out of 10 for both of you, and I'm going to be really generous here. So,
Should we stand up for this so you can actually see us in full? Because
Actually, I haven't seen what you're both wearing. I haven't actually looked properly to
I
see what
didn't
you're.
really-
You're all over the place.
I didn't
today.
realise
Ade,
that.
you-
I'm not this. I'm not great.
Do you know at least the trainers? At least they're almost one colour. Are those trainers?
Yes.
Are they
Converse? Yeah.
Converse?
White socks.
Converse.
How do you feel
You
about
conver-
white socks?
Does that mean you talk to your trainers? Because that means conversing.
Yeah, I never
That's
really thought
okay.
about that. Yeah. I converse with them.
You converse. That's lovely. What have you got on your feet?
Oh God. Why are you putting your trousers down so we don't see your Percy Pig socks? It's when Percy Pig socks.
What do you think?
The shoelaces.
What's
are
the?
that's very...
Yeah. Well, do you know what the one colour?
One colour
And the shoelaces can undone. And what's the socks? Are they like
I've got a
flamingos?
flamingo statement sock.
I thought.
A statement sock. But
you're wearing
the
a statement tie, yes.
Yeah, this is actually a Highgrove product.
Is it really?
It's a Highgrove tie, so it's of quality. We use as obviously Oxfam, and which is absolutely fine. You can always get nice things from Oxfam.
So who wins?
She wins. I would have said for both of you, being generous out of 10, let's do 1.
For
Wow,
you.
jeez. Well,
No, for both.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But do you know what? This time, I mean,
think
we-
I've been
I
really
think, I
harshly
think we
treated.
revisit this situation in 1 year's time, see how we're both. How
give me
how
a
you're
couple months. Give me a
progressing.
couple of months.
Yeah, I think this could go well. I'm going to also try to convince maybe to do. I do some posts on my social media, and yeah, I think both of you would be great for maybe a post on social media.
What's your social media?
It's the Royal Butler on Instagram
it.
Butler.
and TikTok.
I will be following them
And
immediately.
so what we'll do, maybe do a little video on maybe how to do 1 or 2 things and see what the general public think of how you.
Perfect. We'll put it to the vote. Democracy wins.
That's a good idea. We could do it to the vote and see how it goes.
Thank you
but
very
well,
much.
Democracy never really. Okay, anyway, we're not going to get into that. It's a politics.
Yeah,
conversation.
that's no. Never talk
don't-
about
we
sex, religion, politics, or money.
No, talk about what?
Sex, religion, politics, or money.
Doesn't leave much to talk about.
We talk about the weather and corgis.
There we go.
Interesting.
It's been a brilliant episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you for me on.
Can I ask you you know, you said don't talk about sex. Just,
Yes.
just final one.
Yes.
No, actually, no.
Go on.
No.
You're
no.
definitely. You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Don't want to get fired.
Go on.
No, it's quite no.
Go on.
it's
You've
just
got to do it now.
No, I was going to ask. You know, like we were talking about first date. From an etiquette standpoint, how long do you think it should take to have sex on after?
On the first. On,
No,
on,
after.
On
How
a
many
date.
dates?
Oh, I would say I'm being reasonable here. After the wedding, certainly.
Okay, cool.
It's something. Do you know? It's difficult.
I've agreed with everything you've said so far.
Do you know what? In our grandparents' time, they would tell us. Our grandparents would tell us, as they told me, that you don't do any of that kind of naughty things until after you're married. Our grandparents were probably the worst for it. So I think it's safe to say that it's when couples are mutually consented and they feel that whether that be a year, 6 months.
Or an hour and a half.
In Ade's opinion, probably after a few minutes. But yeah, you've got to kind of make that decision yourselves.
Amazing.
But I'm sure that you'll work it out when the time
Indeed.
arises.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been spectacular. Really do appreciate it. Please let us know your thoughts if you are listening to this episode in the comments section below, and we will look forward to seeing you all on the next episode.